Boeing has landed its biggest ever aircraft order. The aircraft maker has agreed to sell as many as 210 wide-body aircraft to Qatar. They're being imposed a tariff of up to 145%. Now, what we know this time is that the Chinese government has asked its carriers to stop taking delivery of Boeing aircraft. With the US, as it reportedly orders Chinese airlines to stop taking deliveries of Boeing planes and to not buy the aircraft-related equipment from American companies in a seismic shift that rocked Boeing's century-long dominance. KLM and KTS, two of aviation's heavyweights, ditched Boeing for Airbus in the same month. A 19-month flight ban and a staggering $2 trillion carbon bill sparked this intercontinental upheaval. So how did Boeing lose its loyal customers in just 6 minutes? And what master plan did Airbus deploy to win over these iconic airlines? Stick with us as we dive into the latest global developments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up to stay in the loop with our content. As dawn broke over Amsterdam's Schiphol airport, the copper glow of apron lights bathed KLM's fleet of blue and white 737s. As one of the oldest names in aviation, Dutch Royal Airlines carries a legacy from the golden age of intercontinental travel. But many of its planes, now clad in aluminum panels, have been soaring for over 2 decades. Pilots stepping into the cockpit could feel the years-worn plastic dangling from overhead panels and the heavy ticking of aging chronometers with outdated interiors, rusting landing gear, and skyrocketing maintenance costs. KLM's board knew it was time for a fleet overhaul for years. The process was simple. Press a button, scribble B737 MAX on the order sheet, and Boeing's Seattle headquarters would buzz with gratitude over the scent of fresh coffee. But on a crisp Wednesday morning in late 2024, the aviation world was stunned. KM announced it was betting its future on 134 Airbus aircraft, including 15 optional wide-body A350s and the A320neo family. The iconic, proudly Boeing 737 branding under KLM's blue tails would soon fade into history. This wasn't just a switch in manufacturers, it signaled a new era in global aviation, driven by safety delivery, reliability, fuel efficiency, and carbon goals half a world away. A parallel story unfolded with Qantas, the flying kangaroo, whose red tails stretch from Australia's outback to Southeast Asia's bustling corridors decades ago. Qantas pledged loyalty to Boeing, painting the skies with 747s, inherited from its British roots, followed by 767s and 737s. But in 2021, CEO Alan Joyce's Project Winton flipped the script when orders for Airbus A225s and A321 XLRs surfaced. Jaws dropped at the Sydney Stock Exchange. Qantas then doubled down, selecting the Airbus A350-1000 with 12 firm orders and 12 options for its ultra-long haul routes, including the 20-hour Sydney to London Project Sunrise flight. Meanwhile, Boeing's proposed 777-88X remains grounded in virtual hangars. Qantas's leadership was blunt. "We need real planes on the tarmac, not promises on paper." The third major blow to Boeing came from Emirates, the biggest buyer of its flagship 777 series in the wide-body market. The Dubai-based luxury airline has repeatedly delayed its 77X order. First announced back in 2013, even the promise of Arabica coffee and massive in-flight screens in their first-class suites couldn't offset Boeing's supply chain risks at the 2023 Dubai Air Show. Analysts were hoping for a renewed 777X commitment when Sheikh Ahmed bin Zayed Al Maktoum took the stage. Instead, he dropped a bombshell. Emirates ordered 90 Airbus A350s and nearly 110 Airbus aircraft. With options, French camera crews grinned, while US Commerce Department officials took notes. This wasn't just about flashy cabin upgrades. Emirates cargo arm Sky Cargo gained more pallet space in the A350's fuselage and committed to a sustainable aviation fuel blend, boasting a 25% emissions cut. Even execs in Abu Dhabi started dusting off their Plan B files, but if loyalty to Boeing is slipping, it's not just about greener engines. The cracks in Boeing's brand run deep, like a geological fault line, between January 2018 and March 2019. 2737 MAX crashes Lion JT610 and Ethiopian Airlines ET302 killed 346 people, sparking the worst safety crisis in modern aviation investigations. Exposed flaws in the maneuvering characteristics augmentation system. MES, a flight control software hidden from pilots, omitted from training manuals, and vulnerable to a single faulty sensor that could force the plane's nose down. The FAA's cozy relationship with Boeing, including its privatized oversight and internal approvals, came under fire. A 19-month global grounding of the 737 MAX left a permanent scar on aviation history, even after the MAX was cleared to fly in 2021. Boeing's troubles didn't end. The 787 Dreamliner faced issues like fuselage panel gaps, titanium fastener defects, and electrostatic protection failures, halting certifications and deliveries for 6 months. As customers grew frustrated, that same year a door blew off during a 737X cabin pressure test, pushing the program's timeline first to 2023, then to 2025. These weren't engine issues from suppliers like Rolls-Royce or GE. These were Boeing's own systems, engineering failures. Each misstep gave Airbus fresh ammo for its investor. Pictures Boeing's headquarters, now in Arlington after moving from Chicago, still carries the weight of a 1990s shareholder-first mindset. A focus on financial engineering siphoned funds away from long-term R&D, leaving Boeing. Scrambling to keep up, Boeing's been facing some headwinds. Engineers were relocated from Seattle to South Carolina, which stirred up some tension and weakened union loyalty. This cultural shift has airlines on edge. Sure, Boeing's financials show profits, but delays in delivering planes are creating chaos for fleet planning. Airlines like Emirates, KLM, and Qantas live by the motto, "If you promise, deliver." It's not just a catchy slogan, it's a make-or-break factor for their bottom line. The US Treasury is also raising eyebrows, viewing Boeing's shrinking order book as a national concern. In the Asia-Pacific, Australia's shift back to Airbus has disrupted Boeing's 737 MAX production lines in Wichita and Retton to stay competitive. The US government has revamped export finance packages through the Ex-Im Bank, but regulatory uncertainty is driving up insurance costs. Boeing's response, they've earmarked $2.4 billion in 2025 for certification tests on the 777X and 737 TESO. Almost double what they planned. 4 years ago, investors are bracing for negative cash flow until at least 2026. Meanwhile, Airbus is quietly stealing the show, despite early hiccups with Pratt & Whitney's PW1000G engines. The A320neo family has won over airlines. With its steady modernization, the A321XLR, with an extra fuel tank in its fuselage, boasts an impressive 8,700 kilometer range. That's enough for non-stop flights from Istanbul to San Francisco or Darwin to Shanghai in a single-aisle jet, game-changing for low-cost carriers chasing long-haul dreams. The A350 is another feather in Airbus's cap, matching Boeing's 787 with a 53% carbon fiber composite structure and powered by the Rolls-Royce Trent XB engine, which boasts the industry's lowest specific fuel consumption. These planes are certified in service for both passengers and cargo and backed by trained pilots, simulators and maintenance networks with global carbon regulations tightening. Airline CFOs are feeling the heat. Europe's emissions trading system is expanding with 2030 targets, and the International Civil Aviation Organization's CORSIA regime kicks in by 2035, making carbon-heavy fleets pricier to finance. Plus, consumers are demanding carbon-neutral certifications. Airbus is capitalizing on this with sustainable aviation fuel. SAF-ready engines boosting airlines' ESG ratings, Boeing still tweaking maximum takeoff weights. While Airbus is already marketing fuel blend compatibility, fuel efficiency isn't just green, it's greenbacks. Fuel-efficient planes could pay for themselves. 2% faster if jet fuel taxes rise. For example, KM's Fly Responsibly plan, presented to the Dutch government, aims to cut CO2 emissions per passenger by 30% by 2030. The A321 new saves 1,800 years of fuel per flight, compared to the older 737-700, translating to $70 million in annual savings based on 2024. Kerosene prices. Airbus is also winning in the financial arena. They secured $500 million in green bonds in Frankfurt to fund a new A320neo assembly line in just 3 hours. That's the kind of confidence investors have in Airbus's vision. This data gives Airbus a clear advantage when CFOs crunch the numbers on depreciation in Excel. Even with Boeing's current discounts on list prices, they can't offset the hefty fuel costs and carbon credit burdens. This analysis holds true for major players like Qantas and Emirates. Qantas reported a 28% fuel savings per seat on its Darwin to Tokyo route using the Airbus A321XLR compared to Boeing's 737 MAX. Meanwhile, Emirates is planning profitable charter flights from Glasgow to Brisbane, leveraging the A350-1000's cargo deck. Boeing's path to recovery hinges on a bold cultural shift to restore confidence. They've announced a matrix structure where safety engineering units report directly to the CEO, but it's unclear if this will translate to real operational change. The FAA has taken a firm stance, refusing to grant exemptions for the 737 MAX until at least the end of 2025. If Boeing fails to update the cockpit warning system for the 737 MAX, 710 is mandated production authorization could be revoked by the end of 2024. Boeing's challenges don't end there. The supply chain is under strain. Spirit Aerosystems is grappling with a financial crisis. Rolls-Royce Pearl engines are delaying deliveries to NetJets and GE. Aerospace is struggling with supply contracts due to post-pandemic labor shortages. Meanwhile, Airbus is charging ahead with its ambitious hydrogen-powered Zero concept set to launch in 2035, a hydrogen-powered turbo prototype featuring a cryogenic tank integrated into the Rolls-Royce Trent engine is slated to fly in 2026. If successful, Airbus could be the first to deliver fossil-free flights. Boeing, despite its sustainable flight demonstrator project with NASA, hasn't provided a clear timeline for hydrogen and passenger aviation, leaving them trailing in the sustainability race. High-volume operators like Emirates are wary of betting on uncertain sustainability promises. They know investors will demand net zero commitments. Within the next decade, the commercial aviation game is also a geopolitical chess match. As the European Commission tightens emission rules for transatlantic flights, a World Trade Organization dispute could flare up if Washington expands state aid for Boeing. A Trump-era 10% tariff on EU Airbus parts paused under Biden could return if Airbus's market share exceeds 50%, creating ripple effects across the industry. What happens if Airbus A350 deliveries are delayed? Will Emirates fall back on its A380 for European routes? Will KLM push for changes to the EU tax regime as it expands its sustainable fuel supply chain with Shell's Neste partnership? Every decision is a complex equation. Passenger perceptions are shifting too. Before 2019, Boeing's Dreamliner was a marketing star with its panoramic windows and comfortable cabin humidity. Now safety concerns dominate headlines. The words MAX, crash linger in travelers' minds, and more are using model filters when booking tickets, prioritizing safety over comfort. KLM's social media team highlights the A321neo's quiet breezes concept, emphasizing its serene cabin experience with subtitles showcasing its cutting-edge next-generation safety. Software, meanwhile, Qantas's A350 launch video concludes with an animation spotlighting the redundant valves in its cabin pressure system, underscoring advanced safety features. The data tells a clear story from August 2023 to June 2025. Airbus secured 1,411 net new orders, dwarfing Boeing's 61 in the same period. Airbus also leads in deliveries with 735 aircraft delivered in 2024 and a revised 2025 target of 840 Boeing. By contrast, projects a modest 480 to 520 deliveries. The gap between these aviation giants is growing. If Boeing doesn't turn things around, the 2020s could be remembered as a grim chapter for the industry. Its storied legacy, from the iconic 707 to the mighty 747, is now overshadowed by the 737 MAX crashes and delays in the 777X timeline. The shift by airlines like Emirates, KLM and Qantas toward Airbus isn't just a supply chain hiccup, it signals a new market reality. Aircraft selection now hinges on carbon compliance delivery, reliability and brand trust, not just engine power or cockpit design. In aviation, loyalty once meant everything. Today, a new triangle of safety, sustainability and transparency is taking over. Airbus is forging this framework with innovative composite materials, while Boeing struggles to tighten its production lines and overhaul its corporate culture without bold changes. Boeing's Seattle factories risk becoming a footnote, a cautionary tale of a titan that shaped aviation's golden age but couldn't adapt to its future. What's your take on this shift? Drop your thoughts in the comments below for more aviation insights. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Software, meanwhile, Qantas's A350 launch video concludes with an animation spotlighting the redundant valves in its cabin pressure system, underscoring advanced safety features. The data tells a clear story from August 2023 to June 2025. Airbus secured 1,411 net new orders, dwarfing Boeing's 61 in the same period. Airbus also leads in deliveries with 735 aircraft delivered in 2024 and a revised 2025 target of 840 Boeing. By contrast, projects a modest 480 to 520 deliveries. The gap between these aviation giants is growing. If Boeing doesn't turn things around, the 2020s could be remembered as a grim chapter for the industry. Its storied legacy, from the iconic 707 to the mighty 747, is now overshadowed by the 737 MAX crashes and delays in the 777X timeline. The shift by airlines like Emirates, KLM and Qantas toward Airbus isn't just a supply chain hiccup, it signals a new market reality. Aircraft selection now hinges on carbon compliance delivery, reliability and brand trust, not just engine power or cockpit design. In aviation, loyalty once meant everything. Today, a new triangle of safety, sustainability and transparency is taking over. Airbus is forging this framework with innovative composite materials, while Boeing struggles to tighten its production lines and overhaul its corporate culture without bold changes. Boeing's Seattle factories risk becoming a footnote, a cautionary tale of a titan that shaped aviation's golden age but couldn't adapt to its future. What's your take on this shift? Drop your thoughts in the comments below for more aviation insights. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. US trade officials continue to frame the slowdown as temporary. But the numbers contradict that. Walmart raised import-adjusted prices by 3.4%, 4% in May alone, citing logistical volatility from the Asia-Pacific corridor. And the Institute for Supply Management reported a 6-point decline in new orders for US manufacturing, the steepest drop since 2022. This isn't just a diplomatic hiccup, it's a real-time economic drag. And if no new agreements arrive before Q3, the contraction won't stay offshore. It'll hit store shelves. Besant claimed China will absorb 65% of the tariffs, a projection loosely echoed from a 2019 NBER study, but the latest numbers don't support it. According to US Customs and Border Protection, total tariff revenue hit $177 billion since 2018. Yet, US consumer prices on affected goods rose an average of 11.3% per the Peterson Institute. In May 2025 alone, prices on Chinese-sourced electronics increased 4.8%. With importers passing costs through Walmart, Best Buy, and even Dollar General, Besant argues that Chinese exporters are subsidizing the difference. But real-world behavior tells a different story. Chinese shipments to the US are declining, not increasing, and firms like BYD and KTL are shifting production toward Africa and Latin America to bypass US levies. Meanwhile, US importers are hedging with shorter contracts, often at a 20 to 30% premium due to fears that Trump's next tariff announcement will hit mid-transit. According to the American Apparel and Footwear Association, this has driven up landed costs by 18% in Q2 2025 alone. If China were really eating the tariffs, their goods would be surging in volume to maintain margin. They're not. So who's paying? You already are. And inflation data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics is finally catching up to that reality.